All right. We have made it to Friday. Give yourself a round of applause, pat on the back, have a drink, whatever it is that you do to celebrate. Because it's time. You made it to Friday. All right. So, sure. Busy week. Hell of a week. Simphiwe and I are both pretty exhausted, and that's always a good thing. You know why?
Yes.
It means you are important and necessary in the world. Because if you are working and somebody needs you, then you have purpose.
Don't say that. Some people just like live in, absolute luxury and they don't worry about anything. So, and they are very important.
I was watching this video yesterday about this dude who he's got like a whole bunch of government tenders, and he lives in this huge big house. Yeah. And he's got like different high-profile girlfriends all the time and everything else. And you think, wow, what a life. And then they show these situations where he was in front of the State Capture Commission. And he's like having to answer these terrible questions because the person who's interrogating him says, and this government minister? Oh, no, that's a friend of mine. And why did you pay them 1.7 million rand? And he's like, they're a friend. And I'm like, oh. You guys just don't know what you're doing. You know what? I would rather, like I often say to people who live in countries where they've got massive violence, immigration problems, all kinds of other stuff. I mean, we've got our problems too, right? And I'm not going to make light of our problems, but I always go, I'd rather have our problems. So the same goes for, like, would I want that BEE tender money? Of course, all of us would immediately go, yeah. But do you want the problems that come with that? The friends and the enemies you make? The fact that you got a target on your back?
I don't know about that. I really don't.
No.
But I'm at that stage in my life where I'm like, maybe let me just try. Let's see what this problem. Like I'm just like, yeah, I don't want that problem, but maybe Gareth, it's going to be worth it. Like 100 million.
I don't know. I mean, so there are three things that you and Ben all said you want to talk about this morning that all kind of relate to this, which is why I think we've got to start with it, because people are talking about the richest South Africans. There's a list that's been published this week. They're also talking about the no money millionaire, which is either something to aspire to or it's complete bullshit. You either have to learn that it is better to live with less, and that it doesn't matter how much money you have. Learning to live with less is actually what you should be after. And then there's the story of you're telling me that Ocean Gate, that terrible situation with that submarine, and all of those people who were killed in that submarine accident, Ocean Gate 2, you say 2.0. There's another one coming. You got to tell us about that in a second.
It's I feel like billionaires never learn. But also they're billionaires. Like, they have all the time, the money, and the resources to like fuck around and find out. And basically, there's this billionaire guy. I think his name is like Clyde Palmer, and he wants to like rebuild the Titanic, and then basically this is Titanic 2.0, where he's gonna rebuild the Titanic and then go on the voyage. And we all know how Titanic ended. So I'm just like, yeah, we'll see you on the flip side of life, my guy.
I don't know why people want to do stuff. I think I'm adventurous. Like I like doing some fun things, but this idea of having to recreate really terrible stuff from the past. And honestly, I mean, what's like the Titanic wasn't terrible, right? I mean, those people all drowned in the fucking ICC. How much more dramatic do you want it to get? You really want it. I saw this story a couple of years ago. They were already building it, and I thought, I know lots of people are very fascinated by the story of the Titanic, and I get it. It was made into that movie. James Cameron, what was that? 97 or so? It was a long time ago. Wasn't exactly.
Rose could have saved Jack. Just say it.
Rose, she could have. But
But
people
no,
love that movie. I mean, it's one of the most successful movies of all time because we love when we can have a beautiful story of romance tied in with a story of absolute tragedy, the highs, the lows, all in one short voyage, ill-fated, historically significant, the end of an era in some ways. So I get why it all lines up and why people are obsessed with it. I saw Simphiwe, by the way, someone bought an artifact from the Titanic the other day because there are like these things go up for sale every now and then.
okay,
Looked like a
okay.
bell or there's some kind of bell or something that they managed to get off of the Titanic, and someone bought it again for like millions of dollars. I thought, wow,
Hmm,
it's a weird thing to collect stuff like that. And I'm not going to criticize any other collectors. We've done some amazing stuff in terms of collectors over the years here, and people who've collected weird things. Collectomania was a series that we did where we found out that there are South Africans who collect all kinds of stuff. So I'm not criticizing it, but what would you actually be willing to pay for an artifact from some really sad, tragic event? I don't know that I'd want that around, but some people want to create or recreate all of that again. I think,
yeah.
listen,
Personally, I think you're just bringing bad luck into your life. Like, why? Like, why would I just go and look for problems? Like, that thing happened. It was a tragedy. And then there it is in my house, chilling like a villain. Like, yeah, you think the spirits of the people that were there are not going to haunt you? Ah, you
yep.
guess, Anna, you are asking for trouble. Leave things there. Like, leave it in the past. Like, I don't have an issue with people collecting things, but like, mm,
Hmm.
not that. Not when it has, like, some
Well,
really negative energy with it.
do you have a problem with what happened yesterday? Because Elon Musk had this incredibly successful rocket event. They took off and blasted into space. This is
Again.
yeah, yeah. But we say again, but this is really an incredible, incredible feat. We talk about humanity and how we're advancing, and we talk about social media and cell phones. And I know he is the owner of X, which is probably the most, let's just say, the most controversial, the most immediate, the most interesting, the most dynamic of all the social media sites. Uh,
Mhm.
but but I don't think that's where his heart and soul is. I think a guy like Elon, it's not about the money at all. For him, SpaceX is where his passion really is. That's what he loves. And I have to say, I saw some pictures yesterday.
Okay.
They posted pics on X. I'm actually really enjoying being back on there because I've cut the number of stuff I follow, the number of people I follow right down. So I'm not following thousands and thousands of people.
Mhm.
I'm following a handful of people who I'm really interested in, and I'm getting if you can curate your lists properly, it's fantastic. So I've
Yes.
really been very conscious of that, and I'm trying to, get the information that I find interesting. And there were so many amazing accounts that were posting the most beautiful pictures of what it looks like to go through the atmosphere, what it
Oh.
looks like to come back in, what it looks like once you cross certain layers of the atmosphere. And
Oh.
I'm just blown away. That kind of thing, I
Oh.
think suddenly I'm like, this is where humanity's cutting edge is. This is where if I were a billionaire, I'd probably be doing something like that. I wouldn't necessarily be going up there myself, but I would be financing all of that. It just puts us on a level where the things we're doing matter. They're important, they're meaningful, they're powerful. It's inspiring as hell. I can't say enough good stuff about it. Amazing.
No, I'm glad that you got roped in because I remember the first time he actually launched it, we were all in the
Yeah.
office watching it. And it's
Mm,
just, I think this is what billionaires should be doing. Like, go around, like, invent things and be like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I don't think you should be recreating the Titanic. I don't think you should be going down into the ocean with a submarine that's basically with a PS controller. Like, don't do
right.
that. Use your money for like, like, Come on now. I'm sure you have all the money in the world to build a proper submarine and a proper ship that can actually get you from point A to point B without killing people. So that's it. I hope that's the lesson of the day
Yeah.
or for the day.
Snipes says, welcome to the Gareth Cliff Show. Like and subscribe. But by the way, it has been our first week of being on the Real Network, which is
Yes.
what is going to be the home of all the cliffcentral.com content that you have come to know and love. Plus, we're adding new shows to that all the time. A big
Yes.
day today for Simphiwe and the show that she is the executive producer of, which is, of course, the Shady Podcast featuring Warris and PH. An amazing, amazing interview today. It's probably going to be groundbreaking in some ways. It is, and I say this because I don't think anyone has done it this way, but it's going to be Jacob Gedletleki Zazuma, who, whether you love him or hate him, has had more effect on and influence over South Africa in the last 15 years than any other single person, for better or for worse, right? And I'm welcoming all opinions on this. But the difference is, that's where the difference comes. Is and you're going to be there in the room when they do the interviews, so it's going to be
Yeah,
exciting.
I mean, if you don't see me on Monday, don't be surprised, Gareth. I'm rocking what I'm rocking on purpose. I have the dog in the car. I'm ready
Good,
to
good,
serve
good,
with some coffee or tea.
good.
Yebo,
Good.
baba. I've been practicing my exit plan. This is always the strat. I was just using you guys to get to where I need to go.
Well, he's going to be the first major guest on that show. They're going to conduct a part of the interview in isiZulu, which I think is really important because famously Jacob Zuma is even more uh, charming and erudite in Zulu than he is in any other language, and he probably will let us in to more of what he's got planned with MK, what his thoughts are on, the ANC now. I think there'll be fascinating things to hear from this. And whether you like him or not, wouldn't you want to know this stuff? So yes, Ricky, it is a new company, the Real Network, which is coming out of the 10 years of amazing experience that we've had at Cliff Central, and we're adding new things. So I'm extremely excited to be doing that this week. The other thing I'm really excited about this week is that our other company, which is the Podcast Party, it's a totally separate entity. The Podcast Party has, of course, been doing all sorts of content around the build up to the elections. And what's interesting there is that we're also trying to get South Africans to think critically. And there is one person in the world who is probably the foremost public intellectual and is just the most incredible thinker and author and speaker when it comes to matters of international importance. And his name is Douglas Murray. And
Oh,
he sat down and spoke to me on Tuesday. We've been hosting him over the last couple of days. He's had lots to say about all kinds of things internationally, primarily, the state of the world, the American elections, which are upcoming, Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Gaza. There's no subject that he's afraid to tackle. He has made a name for himself, not only for being brave and reporting live from conflict zones almost every year of his life, but also that he's been able to tackle complicated subjects and make sense of them and really stand for his position on many subjects. So if you enjoy hearing very, very smart people, then you will love to hear from Douglas Murray. And that's going to be put out today as well on the Podcast Party.
oh,
So
no.
keep an eye on social
Oh.
media. We will update you on X, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on all of those. So you can't miss out on a single thing. And of
I saw
course,
JJ Tabani was also in the mix, so that's
yes,
gonna be
yes, yes, yes.
fire.
Oh no, no. Listen, so we did it. We did a big event on Wednesday. It was a closed event. We had 110, 120 people there, and JJ Tabani and I were with Douglas in conversation. I think you'll find it very interesting. And we've still got more coming there. And this is only the first of these big international guests that we're intent on bringing you. So, yes, Bronwyn, it is the Ides of March, the 15th of March today, the day that Julius Caesar got assassinated.
Oh,
Back in what, 37 BC? I'm just be
sure.
fact-checked on that one. But yeah, there's a lot of cool and amazingly interesting stuff happening at the moment. You basically need to stick to us if you want to know what's going on. There's so
Yes.
much happening, and I don't want you to miss a damn thing. Got
Yes,
it?
yes, yes.
Yes. Excellent. All right. Well, one of the other things I want to talk about quickly is the fact that we've got Ben in today. He's coming in to do some sport for us, and we're also going to have Ben hang out with us until the end of the show. We have plenty to talk about there too, with super bets and some news stories which are worth reflecting on. In fact, one of them I could probably talk about right now. Apparently, the New Orleans Police Department in America is facing an embarrassing situation. Their headquarters, which have been in use since 1968, have become overrun with rats. And the building is in such poor condition, it's been deemed practically unhygienic. Now, that's bad. But here's the real story. Making matters worse, the rats have managed to infiltrate the department's evidence room, which is filled with marijuana. So the rats have been eating the marijuana and getting really, really high. And apparently, these rats are just like passed out all over the evidence room. So just when you thought that, that things couldn't get weirder, that's what's going on in New Orleans at the moment. Do you
You know,
think our
as you
police?
s- no, as you started talking, I was like, okay, this sounds like Alex 2.0. And then now they're in the evidence room. I'm like, oh no, they're eating all the evidence. We can't like lock away the criminals. Can't you know these things are just high in life now? Like
Yeah.
they're on another level. They're just like, oh, I could do this life thing. Oh my oh my word. Oh no. Oh
Well,
no.
Slippery Pickle says it sounds like Durban. Are you sure these are New Orleans rats? Well, I saw a tweet from Justice Malala yesterday where he has been in eThekwini and he says it is a disgrace what's happening in that town. It looks like
Oh,
a war zone, apparently. And I'm sad
sure.
to hear that. I mean, we've been talking about the decline of Durban for a long time now. But the fact that, you know, respected commentators like Justice Malala have been there and have reported that they've never seen it so bad.
Oh.
It makes me so sad. It really does. Mapelo says, "Congrats, Simphiwe. I love that for you. Are you going to be taking any East Rand chickens to Nkandla with you?"
No, not at all, sir. I am as suburban as they come. I'm, like back in the day, I would be considered umfazi wephepha, the wife on paper, the one who is in Joburg and is living in Joburg, and everything is just like I have the house, I'm driving the car, life is simple, life is nice. Like I'm not trying to be plucking chickens and running around and I'm not doing that. No, sir. No, I don't have any expertise in that. No.
Yeah, Signet says Becky Cele has been emulating New Orleans PD with his headquarters. And
Oh,
Carl says eThekwini is the most perfect example of if you want to break something, give it to the ANC. Well, that's how a lot of people are feeling, I'm
yeah.
afraid.
Yeah, it's true. Like they once upon a time, maybe did some good things there and there, but it is an election year. So please, every week I will say this, go out and you must vote. Like 29th
Yeah,
May, what are we doing? We are voting. Okay?
we're voting.
Yeah.
No sitting at home.
Yes.
I did something interesting yesterday too, in the middle of all of this, because really it has been one of the craziest and busiest weeks of my life, and I'm excited about that. I mean, I got home. When was it? Wednesday. Um, I woke up really early on Wednesday morning, and I eventually got into bed after midnight, and then
Sure.
slept for what, like 4 hours, and woke up to come in and do yesterday's show. So I was pretty tired yesterday, and don't feel sorry for me. There are people who have much harder life than a much harder life than I do. But we went on a tour of Soweto after the show yesterday.
Oh,
Not that I haven't done that before, but I found out that Jane Malachi, Mum Jane, has never been
Mm.
to Soweto before.
Oh, wow.
So she came with us, and it was
That's
interesting to see
amazing.
things. Yeah, it was amazing. It was interesting to see things through her eyes as well. So, she was with us, and then you have Douglas Murray out from the UK and America, and he hadn't been there obviously either. So it was interesting seeing the contrast of what Jane was taking in,
Mm.
and where the two of them wanted photographs and what they wanted to hear and what they wanted to know. And we had the most incredible tour guide, in fact, tour guides in the form of Pumi Mashiko, who's of course on the show with us on a Thursday. And Pumi
Mhm.
is a lifelong Sowetan. She was born there. She lived there for most of her childhood, some part of her adult life, and only really moved out when she got married. So she's Soweto through and through. And we
Oh,
went and
yeah.
had tea and scones at her mother's house, and gemere
Oh,
at her mother's
you
house.
drank
Yeah.
wait, Gareth, wait. You
Mm,
drank Igemech. How was
mm.
it? Did it did
It was
it
at the back of the throat, and I mean, I've had it before as well, so
Okay.
it wasn't new to me, but what was so cool is seeing, like, because there are some things about South Africa that are completely unique.
Yeah.
So you can say, our politics are not unique. There are crappy and good politicians all over the world. There are service delivery issues all over the world. There's corruption all over the world. There are all kinds of things about our story that are not unique. But the actual history of South Africa is completely different to the history of anywhere else.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, it was fantastic to see Jane, who lives in South Africa and has never been to Soweto, and she knows a bit about things because she's grown up here. But then to see someone from overseas who is well read and probably knew some of the stories, but to see him see the places for the first time. I mean, I took this beautiful picture when we were at Kliptown, where of course they signed the Freedom Charter. Um, an amazing place that we were the only tourists there, really. There were a lot of people at the Hector Peterson Memorial,
Mhm.
uh, and Vilakazi Street was obviously full of people as well. And I think, I didn't stay for the lunch because I had some other stuff I had to do in the afternoon. But they then stayed and had lunch, and it was a
Oh.
really interesting trip. And what's amazing is that we as South Africans, we don't treat our own country as a tourist destination. Some of us do. Some of us are very good at that. I know someone like Ben, for example, he makes a huge effort to get to see many places in South Africa that the rest of us haven't. Um, Most of us go, "Ah, please, I wouldn't. Why would I want to do a tour of Johannesburg? Or why would I want to see Soweto? Why would I want to see Pretoria? Why would I want to go to historical sites in northern KwaZulu Natal or whatever?" And I've now done a few of these things. I've got to tell you, we have so many interesting places to go to, and it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. If you live in Joburg, it'll
Oof.
cost you. It'll basically cost you your petrol and some tips for the tour guides, and they're all there and they know their stuff. That doesn't have to cost you a lot of money at all because we always think, oh, no, but it's going to be expensive and I have to stay somewhere and I have to book flights. And no, this is right on your doorstep.
Mm.
And
No,
once you've been there, it changes your perspective.
oh, yes, definitely. No, I love hearing the fact that Jade was like at Soweto for the first time. My favorite part of anyone's travel story is when they tell you, "Oh, this was my first time in like Cape Town. This is my first time on a plane." It makes me just so happy because it's like you got to experience something different. And even though you didn't go to like the States or India or cross the border. You got to experience something that was totally out of your comfort zone. And for that, it will always make me smile because you'll never forget that experience. So I hope this is the first for us, Jane. Like, please, don't stop at Soweto. Now it's time to go to the restaurant, ma. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
and,
Mm,
and then like see
absolutely.
how everybody else lives because it also, as you said, it puts things in perspective. Like you realize, oh, I grew up in the East End and I think everybody
Mhm.
talks like this and I think everyone moves like this. And then you realize just a few kilometers away from you, It's a
Yeah.
totally different vibe, totally different structure. Like people move different. Yeah, I love doing that. Like I say, this is also you can call yourself a traveler if you just go and travel in between the city and see. There's a lot to offer in Joburg. I can tell you that much. There's a
I
lot.
know, absolutely, and I know that this is an election year, so most of us are a little bit obsessed, and for good or for
Mhm.
bad. Most conversation at dinner in South Africa is revolving around this stuff this year, which is
Yes.
appropriate. But
Yes.
there's also a tapestry of historical wealth and stories of amazing people that we mustn't forget about. And we get distracted by the modern politicians, and we think
Oh
about
yes.
the state we're in at the moment. And we must talk about places like Durban, because
Yes.
they're at the losing end of all of that. But right
Yeah.
now, there are things that are worth seeing. And if you
Oh
miss
yes.
out, that's on you, you know?
Yeah.
So keep
Definitely.
an eye out. Keep an eye out, because lots of very cool, very exciting, very interesting things coming up on both the Real Network in the next couple of hours, and yeah, well, the new episode will be launching on Monday. But there's going to be some fresh stuff there. There's going to be fresh stuff on the podcast party, and all in all, we are working around the clock and extra hard, which is why Simpiwe and I are so tired. But we will be bringing you the very best, the best. That's what we
Of the
do.
best.
For
Yes.
sure. All right. You wanted to also talk about something that I didn't know anything about. A guy who ate 34,000 Big Macs. Now, I've heard of these eating contests they have in America. Obviously, you're not talking about this in one sitting. And by the way,
No.
can I start at the end and just say, is this man still alive?
Oh, he is. And also here's like the spoiler. He's very much healthy. His cholesterol has been said
What?
to be like all in good shape.
What?
He is a healthy man. And it's not a
Wow.
cooking eating contest. So this guy he's known for like he's broken his own record. So he's like 70 years old. He stays somewhere in the States. He had his first Big Mac about 50 years ago, and he was like, he fell in love. It was love at first bite. And ever since then, that's the only thing he's been eating. And he has probably about 9 Big Macs a day because he's had over 34,000 Big Macs. He's kept every receipt of it. So there's a receipt of all the Big Macs he's bought. He even, eh, here's the cherry on top, proposed to his current wife in the parking lot of guess what? Mackie D's.
Wow, he's
Talk
obsessed.
with Big
Simpiwe,
Mac. Big Mac Claire. No guys.
Does does anyone who woke up this morning and you feel like you don't have a function or a reason to be in society, and you're feeling a little bit worthless, because God knows we all have those days, right?
hmm
Just imagine if your life was about keeping 34,000 receipts of all the McDonald's Big Macs that you've eaten. That is this guy's life. He has kept, I mean, you talk about detailed uh, people who journal, or people who are very meticulous about keeping their social media up to date, and they tag all the people and they show you the locations and they get the music right. And those are things that I look at other people and I marvel that they're so good at making all of that perfect. And maybe you've written your life story down and you just haven't had it published yet. Maybe you're the kind of person who just keeps really good records. Like, if I ask you for your latest tax certificate, you've always got it on hand. You're very organized. This guy's organized is only in a tiny category of Big Mac receipts, but he's got every receipt of every Big Mac he's ever bought, and he's very proud of this. Takes all kinds to make the world, huh?
Yeah, this is where I wish I studied psychology. I'd love to understand the human brain and what for like pushes someone to do this. Like what went wrong or what went right? Because let me not judge him. Like 34,000
Mhm.
Big Macs is a lot in one's lifetime. But like, what was it about that first bite? That you're like, I need to have this for the rest of my life. And also, like, I could probably understand 50 years ago, he was probably eating the real thing, like it was proper
Yeah.
cheese and proper like beef. Now it's just or like fabricated things that were made in the lab. It's not the same thing. So are you still like, oh, this is the burger I fell in love with? No.
What a thing! What a thing to keep a record of. I mean, it's insane. Joking atheist says, I keep receipts of all my toilet paper purchases. Everyone says I'm full of cuck. Very good. Colleen wants to say this. Heartbreaking in the Durban suburbs. Residents doing all we can to keep on top of refuse and responsibly take it to the landfills, doing their best to bring us to our knees. Huge intimidation going on. I'm sorry, Colleen. It really is. It's just so crappy in Durban, honestly. So crap. And this is what happens if you have bad government. When people say it doesn't really have a cost. Yes, it does. Durban is feeling that in a big way. And let it be a warning to the rest of the country that if you vote in assholes and morons, and remember, the Durban municipality, the eThekwini municipality, has been among the very worst in South Africa for probably the last 10 to 12 years. Really bad. No good has come out of it. So you think, well, we don't need them. It doesn't matter. Durban's also had a very, very rough run of luck. They had the riots, they had the floods. Obviously, there's an economic decline there too. So it's a warning. They're the canary in the coal mine for the rest of us. We got to pay attention to this stuff. Anyway, we won't talk too much politics this morning, and I don't want to get depressed. But Colleen, thank you for the update. We've got Ben in studio. Good morning, Ben. How's it? How are you?
Good morning, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, guys, I'll be great once I get headphones. Just sitting here, not hearing anything.
Oh, you can't hear us?
See, this is the thing. We don't prioritize the headphones. We have a calamity now.
Yeah.
Give James
right.
like
Wait,
2
hang on a
seconds.
second. And now, like, the camera that's got me is all, it's like someone's been putting their fingers on it.
Oh, my word.
Just give me a second while I prepare.
Okay, we'll have to reintroduce Ben in like 2 minutes.
What the hell's going on there? Simphiwe, take charge of that place. James needs a smack.
I just work here, Gareth. I just arrived. I just arrived. Yeah, but I think James will have it all figured out in like 2 seconds. You know, like he's got this.
Here's someone new. Sergio says, "Hey guys, I'm watching all the way from Munich. Great to have some South Africans on a business trip. Wow, you're taking some South Africans on a business trip to Munich. Very good. Okay, nice.
What
People are
business
working.
trip is this? You know, like, when's the next round? You know, I could also be on that business trip. Just saying, just.
All Simphiwe has is like 2 trips to Germany.
I have a passport, Gareth. I'm ready. I'm ready to rock and roll. So, you know, I take myself very seriously in life, extremely seriously.
Here's joking atheist says, "Hey, it's Friday. Let us just smile this weekend." Okay, all right, good.
Yes.
No man says Sergio, having to listen to you two, or enjoying listening to us. All right, very good, nice. All right, Ben, are you there?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Now this is the lay. So I talk, and then I hear this guy go, "I talk."
Oh Jesus!
Oh no,
guys! Look, I'm trying. I was on time.
Okay.
I know. You're having a rough start to the day, Ben. It happens to all of us.
No, I'm having. This is annoying. I'm having a fine start. The studio's having a rough start. You know what I think it is? It's because James is wearing a sporting paraphernalia ensemble, and that was only Ryan's domain. So now we're having this issue. Sorry, Gareth, I can't hear you. It's you have to get me out again.
No. Okay.
Jesus. Backwards and forwards. This is ridiculous.
Okay.
It is true that Ryan used to wear the sports paraphernalia every day, but James is wearing it too. Like, I don't know if he passed on that's part of the memo when he handed over, because he was wearing a Red Bull like racing thing yesterday. Do you remember?
Give me 2 seconds.
Oh my God! All right, I'll tell you what. You guys should get your act together on that side. I'll sort this out. Apparently, they found an enormous volcano on Mars. So while Elon Musk is saying we should go there, apparently they discovered a volcano that just dwarfs anything found on Earth. It's about 450 kilometers wide. One volcano that's its circumference. I mean, diameter from one end to the other. they've been studying the formation and composition of this thing, could reveal clues about the planet's geological past. The volcano is located near a possible sheet of glacier ice, which is another exciting discovery for researchers, because if they find ice on Mars, that's a very, very good sign. It means there's water. Presence of ice, of course, says that water might have once been much more abundant on Mars than it is today. And in the future, scientists hope to use robots and even humans to explore this massive volcano. Studying the volcano firsthand could provide even more insights into the history of Mars and its potential for harboring life. And people say it could tell us what happened to Mars if it once was a thriving planet like Earth. We don't know for a fact, but people say there might have been a huge amount of water there. It might have been a very different planet. It might have had an atmosphere. Wouldn't have necessarily been habitable to humans because the temperatures there go up and down, and mostly down to places that we would not survive at. But you never know. It could have harbored other kinds of life. There's no way to be sure. So we've got Simphiwe and Ben on. Are you guys there now?
Do.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've got to ask a question about the Mars thing. Does anyone care? I mean, I'm sure the
Mars?
question's been asked. No, but I mean, this whole thing about we're not going to live on Mars.
Oh, maybe you are
No,
not.
guys, it's not going to happen. I mean,
But-
it's one of those stories that I think it was
Okay.
cool.
I'm surprised by this from you, of all people. You who always says, well, we should be pushing humanity to the absolute limits of what's
On Earth.
possible. No, why? Why would you see? That's like someone saying, well, why don't we just push the brain? Why push the body? Or why do we draw arbitrary lines here? If you talk about excellence, Ben, you can't make conditions.
No, I disagree. I think there's certain realistic ceilings to everything. So this whole thing about Mars, yeah, it's great, but like this is look, a certain party is obviously correct. I mean, I'm looking at this thing thinking, how long is it going to take? 300-400 years, perhaps? Is that a legacy worth investing in? I just don't.
Well, yes.
What
you've got to remember.
It just feels like one of those like nerd things. Like, well, I'm going to be the guy who goes to Mars. I just don't think that's. I mean, I want to poll this. I don't think that I haven't got the definitive opinion on this, obviously. But do people actually really care?
I do.
Okay, so
I can tell you that much.
So
But
2-1 here, basically, is what I'm picking.
no, but I don't care in terms of I know I'm going to go, right? No, I just care in terms of the development of future generations. And I'm like, even if I don't see it in my lifetime, I get
Right.
to kind of be in the first phase of it.
It's great.
And
I just
when
don't
they
see
look
it.
back in history, they're going to be like, it started all here. That's also the nice part is that when people start looking back, they can be like, oh, so the conversation wasn't just 30 years ago, it was 300 years ago.
Let me explain something else to you guys. The number of scientific advancements, technological advancements we have made as a result of entering the space race in the 1960s has been immeasurable. It's been absolutely brilliant for humanity in so many ways. In fact, there are elements of the internet which would not have been possible without space travel. Satellite technology, which we now just take for granted, is something that was not a possibility before the 1950s and 60s. And if we hadn't done a little bit of space exploration and upper atmosphere exploration and orbiting the Earth, let alone going to the moon and now going to Mars, we wouldn't have discovered half the things that we now take for granted as parts of our everyday life. There are things that will be discovered long before we get to Mars, and long before we worry about actually living on the surface of Mars, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal. But in between then and now, there are all kinds of things that humanity will discover. Or we could just sit here and, worry about like our day-to-day problems and talk about things that ordinary, uninteresting humans contend with every single day. I mean, we can do both. We can do both.
Yeah, sure. I do appreciate that too. I just feel like yes, all those things I agree with you. Like go into space, do these kind of things. But I just feel like Mars is like that one thing. It's just like, it's that last swing of the dick that I don't think is really going to play back. All theory, Gareth. I mean, I totally get your point here. It just feels like it's like 2 or 3 frontiers too far to be really beneficial for us. I don't know I don't know what juice we can really get from this.
Carl says he agrees with you. I always agree with Ben, even without hearing his argument. I blindly follow him. Run the poll.
See, I mean, that's a suitable way of going about things.
Ben, have they made your headphones too loud?
No, they're okay. I mean,
sure?
I can hear, so
Okay.
what
matters.
Well, I don't come with it perfect.
I also have to remind you guys, like it was Henry Ford who said everyone will eventually have a car, and he didn't mean every human being on Earth would have a car, but that most people would be able to, at some point, drive in or be able to use a car, and that's very much the case now. People thought he was mad at the time. Bill Gates said he will make sure that every person has access to a computer in their lives that they can actually have in the home and have in the office. That has become a reality for people. We can't do anything anymore without a computer. You carry one around with you in terms of a cell phone every day. And this has become, these are the kinds of things that sound ridiculous and stupid. People are like, why would you want that? When the question's first asked. And then along the way, we figure out that it's actually a really good idea. I mean, Michael has a good question for you, Ben. What if they make a golf course on Mars? Would you be on board then?
Obviously not. Where are they going to get the kind of grass that creates a great golf course? I mean, this is just my point, right? It sounds cool. You can play golf on Mars, but I know it's going to be cuck. And this is the point I'm making. Although landing terribly, much like any of the crafts going to Mars, I just think it's that little bit too far for us to be realistically invested in this whole thing. Space travel, go ahead. Do all these kind of things. Harness meteors, mine them for iridium or whatever that's out there. I get all of that. But I just think there's certain levels. And I think in life, be a dreamer. Fantastic. Amazing. But pragmatism, if that is a word, also needs to come into the mix. Otherwise, I think we're also just wasting time. You know, this whole thing about follow your dreams, kids. Like, no, actually, you really shouldn't. A lot of the time, it's just going to put you into a stratosphere of nothingness. But there's that fine line. There's that stratosphere. Yes, you can play golf in Dubai because they've got a decent enough atmosphere and they desalinate all the water so they can grow grass, Grant. Well said.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'd said to you, you could build a golf course in Dubai in the 1950s, you'd have said you're insane. There's no grass here. It's a desert.
Yeah, but you can still breathe, Gareth, and you can still, like, for certain months of the year, it's still completely fine and habitable.
Ben, if you've been to Dubai and you know what it's like when you get out of the plane or the car or the hotel room for the first time and you get into that like 45-degree heat and you think, this is not a place for humans. We will one day be able to do.
You don't go there. You don't go there in June. I mean, that's just silly. You go from like November to like March.
Ben, there are people who live there all year round. What are you talking about? And Dubai is actually, I'm glad Grant brought up the example of Dubai because it's a perfect example. It's like Dubai is so hot that it's pretty much halfway between us and an uninhabitable planet. And yet people have made it habitable. In fact, it's the center of luxury. It is the most luxurious place in the world right now. It's where billionaires go to play.
And it's halfway, right? It's a give and take. Mars is on the other side of that spectrum where there's like fuck all of things you can use. Dubai is like 30, 40%.
All right. Well, you know what? We've got a poll. James has put a poll up on the YouTube live chat. You can go and vote in it as we speak. We will announce the results just now. Why don't we get into some sport in the meantime? Let's find out what we can look forward to this weekend. It is time for Beyond the Scoreboard, brought to you by Ben Karpinski and powered by Superbets. What do we got on the agenda this weekend, Ben?
All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you what, it's looking a bit sparse like Mars on the sports front this weekend. There's not a huge amount, but that's also not a bad thing, right? Because what we've got is pure quality. Six Nations, it wraps up this weekend. Last weekend, there was many a cat amongst a pigeon. Put that into Italian or French if you want to be really into it. But it hasn't really shaken up the outcome at the end of the day. Ireland are still going to win this thing. They're always going to be the best team. They are the best team. They think they're the best team in the world, but they lost to England last week. So you guys are back in your box, but you're still an amazing team. So yes, mathematically, which is one of the preambles that you'll get in most people when they go into this, Ireland can still lose the Six Nations, but currently they're on 16 points because they've got 4 bonus points from their matches so far. So even though they've won and lost the same as England, they've got them bonus points. This is the whole thing about rugby. You know, back, I think in the 90s, they implemented the bonus point system to make it more exciting like this. In the past, you had 4 points for a win, whether you beat them by 100 or you beat them by a Springbok 1. Whereas now is you've got all the bonus points. That's what makes it. And Ireland are a great example of this. So they also have a points difference of 80. Which is so much more significant to anybody else. Even if someone gets onto the same points as them, they're still going to lose. So if you want to go through those permutations, I'll give them to you quickly. basically Ireland need to lose and get 0 points, nothing, and they lose their points difference and just basically have the cuckest game against Ireland. Basically, they need Ireland to have St. Patrick's Day early and run into that field about 8 Guinnesses in. Not going to happen. But then England also need to absolutely hammer France with a 5-point bonus point win. Scotland need to beat Ireland by about 77 points, which again can't happen. And then France needs to beat England by about 77 points, provided the Ireland are drunk. So that all sounded like bullshit because it is. And Ireland are going to win the Six Nations. And they are playing against Scotland Saturday, 6:45. Yes, they lost last week, but the Scots are going to get an absolute trousering right now. They just lost to Italy. They're going to go over to Ireland. This could see a green, bright green and drunk. That's all they're going to see. And that's obviously going to fire at the players because that is their heritage. Before that, Wales take on Italy at 4:15. Fascinating match this because Italy have just drawn with France at home. And then they beat Scotland. So these are two really big things. Now, Italy, I think since 2000, I think it was, that when they implemented, these teams came together in the modern era, so to speak, Italy have taken the wooden spoon 18 out of 23 times. Now that's cuck. That means you finish last, right?
Yeah.
18 out of 23. And that's always going to hang over them. But this year, if they beat Wales, they don't get the wooden spoon. Wales very much gets. I mean, Wales have been pretty shy. They've got such a young team. Most of those oaks will be asked for ID if they walk into any bar in the world. And it shows the way that they have lost 4 out of 4. And last week, they took a pasting to the French. But still, Wales at home, they sing well. They've got a lot of pride. Warren Gatlin's still going to be some sort of mentor to those kids. Going to be a great game. And then finally, the game France versus England. England, of course, just beat Ireland, so they're probably the world's champions. If that's how it works in Northern Hemisphere. You have one good week, basically the world champion. I don't know. I don't make the rules. So France, they have just beaten Wales. They bit of a shake-up last week with their fullback playing fly half. Ramos, he was incredible, scored a lot of points. Maybe that's a catalyst they need, seeing as they still have no answer for the DuPont void. So France, England, 10 o'clock. That's going to be a great game. Into football, we've got a big cup weekend. So FA Cup quarterfinals. Now Saturday we've got Wolves versus Coventry. So there's like no name branders. Although Wolves obviously are a Premier League team, not a biggie. That'll be at 2:15. But then you got a big one: Man City versus Newcastle at 7:30. And then Sunday we got Chelsea versus Leicester at 2:45. And then Man United versus Liverpool. So for a team like Man United, who's never going to win the Premier League in their current iteration, they're like the team that won't go to Mars. They have to win FA Cups. This is their shot at glory. They was not going to win in Europe. Basically, Man United are the Arsenal of like the last sort of 10 years. And Arsenal, or like they won the FA Cup, and that was their big thing. So those are your big FA Cup quarterfinals. Then we also got the Nedbank Cup last 16. So if you're new to this, the Nedbank Cup is basically South Africa's FA Cup. You get those smaller Nyana teams come through. You get the big ones coming down, and they all have one big scrap. For example, Chiefs took on Milford. No one knows what Milford is. I thought it might unblock your drain, but no, it's a football team, and they beat the Chiefs last time around. So they're playing today against Stellenbosch. University of Pretoria and Amazulu are already through. And then Saturday, we've got Richest Bay versus Supersport United at 3. Chipper United versus the Ravens at 3. Pirates will take on Hungry Lions at 6. It just sounds like quite something. And then Sunday, we've got D General versus TX Galaxy at 3. And then Sundowns will take on Maritzburg United.
Hang on, just say that one again, because that sounds so horrific.
D General. D apostrophe General. I don't make this up. I promise. I've never once made a name up in the sport.
It sounds to you like two really boring corporations going up against each other. That's what it sounds like.
No, it sounds like a local gang boss who wanted a football team and he's just known as the General. That's what it sounds like. Either way, credit to them. They're in the last 16 of the Nedbank Cup. And then last game, Sundowns versus Maritzburg United. So Pirates are the defending champs. Again, these teams don't win the league because that's just Sundowns terrain, right? So these things are really big. It means a hell of a lot. So you can catch all that action over the weekend. And then we got golf. It is the Players' Championship. Now, this is a significant week for the golf because with the LIV going away, taking those players, taking the fanfare, taking this whole thing about the biggest checks in golf, the Players' Championship is like the PGA Tour's major where they've really got to stand up and go, we've still got all of this. We're still the thing. Like we're still the main swinging deck in this whole golfing world. So the Players' Championship is the biggest money event on the PGA Tour. It's more than the majors. And it pretty much has the strongest field because it is the flagship of the PGA Tour. Now, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy, and Wyndham Clark are all in the lead currently at -7. There was a bit of weather going around and some player meltdowns. I mean, it's a really interesting course, and there's some really iconic holes. It's all hugely contrived because, I mean, it's the PGA Tour's golf course. They own this golf course. This is their stadium course. They put everything on. So it doesn't have like a history of a major, but you know those courses. Like, it's been on PlayStation games since PlayStation games were showcasing golf. TPC Sawgrass, the Player Stadium course. It's going to be very interesting the whole weekend through, and you've got the best field in the PGA Champs. So you got amazing golf, you got amazing rugby. I just want to throw forward to what we are looking forward to. I mean, every now and again we get a bit of a lull week like this one. Maybe you spend more time with your family. Maybe you spend more time outdoors. Whatever it is, it's good to have balance. But the Masters, 11th to 14th of April, that's coming up.
Ooh.
If you are a big gambler, the IPL starts 22nd of March. It's right here. We've got the Australian Grand Prix. That's next weekend, next Sunday. And of course, because Australia doesn't observe Ramadan as their main thing, we'll get a Sunday race. Yeah, you guys thought I forgot that from last week, didn't you? Yeah. And then the UFC. I mean, what's really exciting about this is that our friend Cam Simon is actually going to be a co-main event next weekend. So he is in one of those UFC fight nights. He's going out there, and this will be the win to redeem his lost performance. If you didn't remember, last time out, he is a bantamweight fighter, and the guy he fought against had no regard for the rules, did not really cut weight, went in there much heavier and bigger, and Cam had his first professional loss. So this is going to be his redemption fight. He's fighting against Peyton Talbot, actual person. And then UFC 300, 14th of April. I mean, this is absolutely gigantic. We've got the URC coming back next week. And if you do like the rugby from a different time zone, Super Rugby still happens. It's just that I don't think we should care. That's worse than Mars in my mind, because South Africans moved away from Super Rugby. It's like the ex-girlfriend of sport. It was a bit of a toxic relationship. It was quite parasitic. They were taking from us. They weren't really giving back to us. So yeah, I don't forget about Super Rugby. I just think we should move on from it.
Fine, we'll take your word for it.
And to wrap up the weekend, this is something I feel we should be having a look at, right? If you go into Super Bets and you play a bit of a cheeky multiplier on the rugby, so I've just given you the preamble of what's going to happen, right? Ireland are big favorites. France are going to be favorites to win that one. And I think Italy might sneak it against Wales. Now, to put that into betting terms, Italy at a +6.5, so you get a bit of a handicap there just in case they slip up or in case the Wales come back. I think you would give Ireland the handicap of -13.5. Remember, they are playing St. Patrick's Day weekend. It's basically ordained that they're going to win and then win the Six Nations. And then we've got France, who are, again, the favorites at home, right? And they play late, and this is just their thing. Give them a handicap of give England a handicap of +9.5. So you put that together, put 100 ront on there, you're going to get odds back around sort of 428 is what I look at. For example, my 100 will get me 543 back because I get a bit of a bonus in there.
Very good.
So play the multiplier. I think give Italy a bit of a chance, handicap, cut back Ireland, and then give England a buffer. And I think you've got a nice little multiplier for the weekend on Super Bets. Because golf's hard to bet on, and if you know what's happening in these football teams, then good luck to you, because I sure as hell am not going to be confident enough to tell you that the Ravens have a chance versus Chipper, or that the Hungry Lions might eat into the Pirates' lead. So up to you.
I got to agree. Like, I also didn't know about half of these teams. Slippery Pickle says, I thought Hungry Lion was a cheap KFC knockoff.
Wait, they have a soccer team?
Well, it must be, because in Zim, Chicken Inn is a soccer team. But Chicken Inn is also a place you go in for chicken.
Andy wants to know, this is a good question, who decided that a rugby match should be 80 minutes?
No idea. Never thought of that before. But it's interesting.
Are they complaining because it's too long or too short?
Well, when you play high school rugby, because you're still a developing man, you'll play 30 minutes and a half up to 35 in the latter stages. And then obviously big age group, big male rugby is 40 minutes and a half. I don't know. Why is soccer 45? Someone decided, and then
someone arbitrarily, we got into
decided, and then they took a poll like on YouTube right now, and then this is how life works.
That's it. Okay, so If you want to go and place a bet, Ben's done all the homework for you. He's calculated the averages. You can just get in and start making some money. And of course, Superbets supports responsible gambling, strictly now under 18s. Winners know when to stop, like after 45 minutes or 80 minutes or 90 minutes. That is how it works. South Africa's Responsible Gambling Foundation's toll-free counseling hotline, 0800 006 008. There's plenty to talk about there. When we come back, I mean, Ben wants to talk about a couple of things. First of all, is there such a thing, and can you actually get your head around the idea of a no-money millionaire? In other words, someone who doesn't need the material things around them. And there are loads of very happy people that we can talk about who have nothing but are able to live like a millionaire. They're able to have experiences. They're able to have happiness and joy and relationships and things that fill their day with all the excitement that you would think you need to be a millionaire for. Or as Simphiwe and I were talking about earlier, do you need to actually have enormous amounts of cash and all the things, all the luxuries around you? We'll find out, because we've also got to look at the list of South Africa's richest people, which has just been published this week. Who are the richest people in SA? So we'll get into all of that in just a short while. Don't go anywhere. cliffcentral.com. It is just before 7 o'clock. We've got plenty more for you. Ben is here. Simphiwe is here. I am here. And you are here. That's the most important thing. So don't go anywhere.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Look, I just remember, like, during COVID, for instance, a great example of like when this sort of thing, specifically the phone, and like things on surfaces kind of came up. That's when, for me at least, when I took real sort of appreciation of washing your hands and making sure that all the surfaces are clean. Yeah, but I mean, toilet seats, I mean, I don't know about that. The toilet seats seem kind of like disgustingly dirty. So I would never ever assume.
Why? Well, I'm going to go and say that the interior of a car is probably dirtier than just about anything and everything you can possibly think of.
Yeah.
The foot traffic that goes through your car, the surfaces, there are multiple surfaces that get touched, door handles, steering wheels, handbrakes, gear levers. It's just nasty.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
All right. We are live. Has Simphiwe just stepped out to the bathroom, Ben? What's going on there? No, we don't have sound on Ben because Simphiwe is not there. It's all been muted, but it's okay. God, what is going on in that studio? I need to be there in order to kick some ass, clearly. Don't know what's happening. All right, I will tell you this because it's something that came up yesterday in conversation. I'm not sure if it's happened to everybody. I don't know what the depth and duration of this problem might be, but apparently we have a big issue with our undersea cables and the internet. Is that true at the moment? There's something wrong with us because we don't have the internet. Is that right? Like a whole bunch of
there have been issues.
Yeah, do you know what this is?
Not in great detail, but some of the towers have been either hijacked. Yesterday, some companies were complaining of not being able to get into their emails. Microsoft is actually down yesterday as well.
Yeah, but that's because Bill Gates had a new update of the vaccine.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And then,
I'm hearing 3 different possible reasons for this. You're making me happy.
But either way, the internet is just
aren't criminals just
trash.
Such dicks? They just ruin life. And like people glamorize gangsters. These people are pieces of shit. I mean, imagine like you take on the world infrastructure because you want to go to Hungry Lion and have free lunch. No, let us just do things. We need internet.
Well, apparently it also has to do with our undersea cables, and that isn't necessarily criminals, but it could be marine animals that hate us, or
I think it's the Meg. It's that giant shark called the Meg. There was a movie about it, so it's obviously true.
Yes. The Meg, clearly, that's what it is, and it's been chewing through the cable for a couple of years. Finally, managed to make its way through.
Make less tasty cables. We've had this issue before.
SNES says it's true. Microsoft Teams and Outlook are both not working, and the internet cables were cut in several places around South Africa. Now, is that sabotage? Is it malicious, or is it the Meg? We need to know this stuff.
Yeah, but it's affecting like Africa in general. So, yeah.
Tabo says, is this why Pornhub is so slow?
Sure, it's hitting people on various levels now. Yeah.
Can we talk about the people that still work with Microsoft and Outlook, okay?
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah. Hey, you know?
Uh-huh.
No Teams meeting today, early weekend.
Listen, I don't even think Microsoft Teams worked before they had this problem, and that's just me. I'm just saying, it's not my favorite thing. All right, let's look at South Africa's rich list. Ben managed to find this for us. You want to take a look?
I'm listening.
All right.
Can you turn my headphones down just a smidge? I mean, I am trying to wear this well, but it's actually it's still hurting.
I could have, that's why I asked. I didn't ask because I was being polite. I asked because you were talking like someone who's terrified that something too loud is going to come through their ears.
Yeah, but I had nothing to start with, so I mean, I just thought like, fuck, this is what I got. I'm gonna work with it.
Oh my God!
Your pain tolerance always impresses me. Like
like this is a game show. It's like,
like Ben will wait 40 minutes in to be like, I can't hear, guys. I've got deaf.
It is true. It's very funny, Ben. Sorry, not for you so much, but for all the rest of us. Okay, so who are the richest South Africans? You want to know? Definitely not us.
Not us yet.
So I'll tell you who's worth a lot of money here. We've got the usual suspects. I don't think there's anyone here that you've never heard of. Christo Wiese is worth $1.2 billion. Of course, he's the guy with ShopRite Checkers. We've got Michiel Leroux, Patrice Motsepe.
All right, who's Michiel Leroux?
Michiel Leroux is also a well-known South African businessman. I must just check which exactly are his companies, because also he's been on these lists a lot. He founded Capitec back in 2001.
Right. Okay.
He's got about 11% of Capitec, and that's a huge, enormous, successful, and fast-growing business. Patrice Motsepe, of course, Rainbow Minerals. Koos Becker, who was the Naspers man who bought into Tencent early on, or rather Tencent. Yeah, because Naspers is the holding company for Tencent in some machination. I'm not sure how they built it, but how it works. But basically, Koos Becker right up there at $2.7 billion. Nikki Oppenheimer, the Oppenheimer family, of course, mining, diamonds, De Beers, all of that stuff. They are at $9.5 billion, but they're only number 284 in the world.
Yeah, right.
So the Oppenheimer family may be rich in South Africa, but in the world, they're only the 284th richest. And then number 1 in South Africa at number 190 in the world is Johan Rupert at 12.4 billion. Of course, started off as a cigarette company, ended up as a massive luxury goods company, ended up as a massive financial services and other assets diversified across very many industries company. It's very, very successful. And Johan Rupert took what was already a fortune that his father had made, Anton Rupert I, and then decided, you know what, I'm going to make this even bigger and better. And he's gone on to do exactly that. Very, very smart investor. Most of his investments aren't even in South Africa.
Exactly. But there's a guy who's also giving back so much to this country, but he gets vilified by like those cretins those socialist cretins who just want to take everything. I mean, these are success stories, you know. I think in the last sort of 10 years, like the wokedom has vilified these people. Sure, you get unscrupulous billionaires, you get cutthroat capitalists who then do certain things, but these people have created jobs. They've created so much. Like this should be a celebrated list rather than oh, it must be nice, or you guys stole stuff. Because if you look at the comments go to an article like this, look at the comments, you'll get all these butthurt people who have no money just moaning and bitching about these people. Like, oh, why must you be so rich? It's like, these people are the Mars of humans, right? Because they've gone so far. And in going so far, they've brought so much with them.
Well, I don't read those people. I don't want to know from poor losers how they feel about a rich list. I'm not interested in them. I really am not. Yeah. I don't want to hear from some sad, pathetic, jealous person, because that's what it boils down to. It's just bitterness, resentment, and jealousy. And those people are like that because they don't deserve to be rich. That's why they're miserable and resentful and bitter. And I don't need to hear from them. Similarly, I don't hero worship rich people. Because I think it's unhealthy for people to say, oh, well, because someone's rich, they must be a fantastic person. That is not true.
Yeah,
right?
It's not true. Definitely not. And also just never hero worship anybody. It's just a sign of defeat.
So Simphiwe, who do you think this person is? Here, put a picture of him up here.
I know who that is.
You know who it is, Ben?
Of course.
I don't. His eyes look scary. Why do they look green? Like this.
Interesting take, Simphiwe. Like interesting take. The world's richest man, responsible for all the brands that you love, and you've attacked him like a crow on his eyes.
Yeah, he's scary looking. Yeah, he looks like he's just gonna zap me right now. I don't know who this is, but he's just.
That's the world's richest man.
That's correct.
He is the man behind the Louis Vuitton. What's there's like the big house. Basically, they have like
LVMH.
Yes, and they've got like 1,000 brands. Like your life is touched by this man and his eyes every single day.
Yeah, I always say he's not ugly billionaire, but this man ain't aging well. Sure.
Well, you know what's interesting is that this guy, and Ben is right, he is selling the products that everybody in the world's not necessarily richest countries are the most desiring of. So he sells, luxury goods, wallets, watches, shoes, belts, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, all of that stuff's in his portfolio. All the stuff that you see in those very, very expensive shops at airports where, you think I could never afford anything in that shop. Well, somebody is, and they're going in there and buying the stuff. You know that Millionaire's Diamond Walk in Sandton?
Yes.
Yeah,
those shops, those are his shops. And you know what happens is poor and stupid people from all over the world go into those shops. They buy expensive stuff from this man, and he laughs with his green eyes and his not aging well. And he laughs at them because he is now the richest man in the world. He is worth a reported $237.8 billion. And he's not going to Mars. He's not wasting that money on anything.
Yeah, exactly. Of course he's not. But he's basically Johan Rupert times 100. If you really want to put it into context, just how rich and successful that guy is, because he's times 100 in the sheer portfolio and scale of his wealth and the number on his wealth. Like that is really quite something.
And then number 2 is now Jeff Bezos of Amazon. And number 3 is Elon Musk. Just a little while ago, Elon was the richest man in the world. Now he's the 3rd richest man in the world. So it's tough up there. Things never stay the same for long.
But like quantifying liquid wealth or whatever these things are, it's quite subjective. I mean, if the Oppenheimer family had to basically sell every diamond that's still in their possession, because correct me if I'm wrong here, but that's how the diamond trade works, right? They've got so much, they regulate it in order to create a price. So if they had to, if everything on a face value was sold, I'm pretty sure they would be up there as well.
Yeah, they probably would be, because again, these guys don't have, it's not like they've got a balance in their bank statement at the end of the month.
No,
that
that's
says
what poor people look at.
$200 billion. You couldn't fit that on most bank statements anyway. They've probably got, have got a substantial amount of money in the bank, but their real wealth is in owning companies, owning shares, owning options, being able to invest in things. That's where the real value is, and it's not in cash. So
yeah, I mean, sure, like the richest person is actually Vladimir Putin.
Probably.
So if you really want to break it down, this is just like the commercial quantifiable rich list. I would love to know what the real money is. Like all these warlords and
like the richest gangster,
people who run
the
these
richest
despot
drug dealer.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I can tell you about one, and then we must get into whether or not you would want to be one of these no money millionaires. But there's one who's just raised his head above the parapet wall in a complete clusterfuck of a country called Haiti. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this story over the week. What a story. I brought it up with Jack Motlanthe on Tuesday, but Haiti has basically gone to absolute shit again. It's never really been a fantastic place. And you remember how much opprobrium was directed at Donald Trump not so long ago for saying, Haiti's a shithole country. You remember he said it's a shithole?
Mm-hmm.
And people were very upset. They're like, how can you call Haiti a shithole country? And people like Bill Maher and Conan O'Brien were all wearing shirts saying Haiti is already great, as opposed to make America great again. And they made a big statement, all stood on a beach in Haiti saying, look, this place is wonderful. Well, guys, I think you got to eat your hats and your shirts now, because it is not. It is being run at the moment. It's a half of an island. One half of the island is called the Dominican Republic, which actually is not such a bad place after all. It's been run pretty well. It seems like it's almost bizarre. It's almost like an experiment in government. This will tell you why government's important. No Politics Friday, excepted for this particular story. But one half of that island is called the Dominican Republic. It seems to be stable, run reasonably well. They have an economy to speak of. It's not paradise in every way, but it's a hell of a lot better than what's on the other side of the fence. Because Haiti, which has just never been able to not be a complete dumpster fire. Haiti's run now by a guy. I'm not kidding about this. You know what his name is? Barbecue.
Wait, what?
There's a
like
warlord.
Barbecue as in what Americans call a pie. Barbecue.
Correct. The guy's name is Barbecue. Some people say he's called Barbecue because his dad used to run a barbecue chicken stand or something. A lot of people also saying that he's called Barbecue because they are literally roasting people on the streets in Haiti and eating human flesh. There is cannibalism back on the menu in Haiti. It is that bad a place. So how do you like them apples?
Wow. Not that these woke people have any conscience and they don't know what shame is, but they've just basically said Haiti's great and these guys are now cannibals. At some stage, where is the whole thing of like, Trump's actually really not that bad, but not like people with like a common sense said. When did these morons just like the things that he said over the time? It's just only getting better with age. All of these quotes are aging so well, and all these stupid knee-jerk reactions like Haiti's already great. Fuck, these people are such morons.
They are such morons, and that's why we need to call them out on this. If you haven't seen it already, you'll be able to look this up fairly easily. You'll see a whole bunch of American celebrities, Sean Penn, those kinds of people, whose chief motivation is I hate Donald Trump for whatever reason, and you may feel the same. But the fact that they went and compared Haiti to what is going on in America just shows you how out of touch these guys are. It's crazy.
And the internet never forgets, nor should we.
Correct. Very, very good. All right, Ben, I'm just going to flash this on screen and you can give us a summary. You found this little bit of an article about no money millionaires, and it's too small on the screen anyway for people to read. So you're going to have to give us a little précis.
Yeah, I think it's something that I find it comes up quite a lot in the various things that I look at. So maybe my sort of Instagram algorithms or things that I get fed on YouTube. But like digital nomads is like a big term, right? That wasn't around so long ago. And that was just something that's just so simple. People can work anywhere because their jobs are remote and therefore their lifestyles change. In the past, you'd need to be super rich to go, I'm going to take a sabbatical in the south of France or whatever. But you can actually do it in a sort of very scalable way now. It's like, I have this job, which I can do there. So I'm going to live there and live this life. So suddenly your world is now so much broader. This whole thing about you can only have things if you have money, it's so true. But when you become enslaved by that process of trying to make money, then what sort of life are you actually living? Because your idea of millionaire life is very much like that. Who was that dude who had that show, Lifestyles, the Rich and Famous? Like in the 90s. Robin Leach. So that was like how we grew up to think that millionaires were, right? But now I think it's changed so much because things have been so disrupted in so many different markets. So I want to bring this up again because I'm all about democracy today, clearly, is that you get these buzz terms that get thrown around and people love it and they jump on it and all that kind of stuff. So what do you guys think about this fact that you can be a no money millionaire? So just to kind of make it very clear, I wake up every single day of my life. I want to make money because with money comes great options. And I would love to be a millionaire because then I have these things. But I'm not prepared to be enslaved by this 20, 30-year plan that at the end of the rainbow, I will be a millionaire and I will have these things. Because then I've just dicked away 30 years of my prime. And I don't believe in being an old millionaire. I just think that's an old person whose life is slightly less shit. So what do you do in the meantime? So this whole thing about being a no-money millionaire is that you do actually live for the now. You get to experience these kind of things and you get to have the freedom without being enslaved by the process of making money.
I just want to read
the definition.
I just want to
money
millionaire. Let me read the opening to you, and you'll get an idea because I think this is quite well put. So it starts with a quote from Coco Chanel, and she said, "The best things in life are free. The second best things are very, very expensive," which is hilarious. Very, very clever. She says that, and then it starts with, "What's the difference between eating in a fancy beachside restaurant or sitting on the beach with a coffee?" The one is expensive and the other one doesn't cost you anything, right? And as far as I know, all the best beaches in the world, or at least a great majority of them, are not owned by anyone. They are public property. So you could go and sit on pretty much any beautiful beach in South Africa and have a thermos flask and a coffee, and you could sit there and watch the sunrise, and it would cost you less than 10 Rand.
True.
You thought about that? Anyway, that's how it starts. What's the difference between driving a supercar on a Mediterranean coastline or cycling along the US coastline?
So obviously you don't want to be a cyclist. I get what they're saying there, but I think that's the bad analogy for this point.
Another example they give. Let's move on because I agree with you on cycling. Okay. What's the difference between being rich and not having to work, or simply not having to work? Money is the difference, obviously, but the experience is similar. This doesn't mean you shouldn't want to make money, only that 90% of a millionaire's lifestyle is available to you for a few hundred Rand a week. That is your first goal.
So I'll take it further, is that people make money also for security, because you want to know that at some stage you'll have money because you won't be able to make money. It's like, nobody wants to listen to me in 20 years' time. I'll be old, long in the tooth. I can't make money through media, content creation, those kind of things. So I must make money for that time or have some sort of worldly pivot. I don't know what it is. So we have earning time frames, right? That's why people think I'm going to work for the next 20 years because I won't be able to work after that. I get that. I get that argument. I think my biggest takeout with this whole no money millionaire thing is that you've got to understand in life that certain things absolutely enslave you and then ruin your life. So I always look at it like that. Sure, I can get a job right now, and for 20 years, I can make good money.
Sure.
But then what are those 20 years really going to mean? I'm chasing a certain kind of millionaire, or I can make okay money now. Still a millionaire, that's always the goal. But every day I've got time, and time is just that most amazing quantity. So I like the idea of the no money millionaire. It's not something, for a lot of people will go, well, I'm poor, therefore I'm just going to claim this. Like, no, you should always have ambition, always have drive. But I want to be enslaved by absolutely nothing other than just my zest for life.
In other words, Ben, you would categorize freedom above being wealthy.
Material wealth, absolutely. I like that I have my own time. I think I'm a pretty dependable person to work with. If the stuff needs to be done, I get it done. But at the same time, don't bug me and think I'm going to sit somewhere. Maybe that's why I never actually had a real proper job.
Interesting.
You agree?
You guys? No, I don't. I think this is how I view it. I'm all for like living in soft luxury and kind of experiencing the finer things in life, but also the finer things in life come with some sort of hefty paycheck with it. But in like my goals of becoming a millionaire, I think you need to normalize certain things and you need to get into the habits of like going to the beach on Saturday or Sunday or going to the park and doing all those non-expensive things, but also treating yourself to like the big things now and again. So I'm not waiting for 20 years to drive my dream car. It was like, I've worked so hard, I can afford this, I'm doing it now. So for me, it's like, I've achieved like driving my dream car. Now what's the next big goal? Oh, let's get the dream house. And you kind of like work towards that. But in between all of that, I still want to be like, yesterday I went to Durban and came back. So for me, it's in between of like, I do want to have the freedom of just chilling all day, every day. But the reality is I don't. So I have to work. And I know that if I work for like 3-4 days now, come the weekend, I can reap the benefits.
Yeah, I think another good thing about this is that it makes people more present. If you just have this thing, this big lofty Mars plan for your life and your wealth, is that's all you have, okay? So you're not really present in the relationships that you have. You're not really present in the potential that you have to do new things or learn new things or start new relationships. I mean, like, if I just decided tomorrow I'd only do a certain thing, then you guys would fall away. I like the fact that I've got an hour with you on a Friday.
Yes.
Doesn't make me rich, but I feel like I'm rich. I feel like a millionaire sitting here because I get to talk. I get to read comments from Carl that are always off the mark. I mean, it's just, this is happiness right now for me.
Slippery Pickle says something that I think is true. And I agree with Simphiwe to some degree. I think we all have to, we have to be realistic about this. It's all good and well, like having a philosophy, but you have to make the money. There's got to be the actual cash. But Slippery Pickle says the billionaires I know of never stop working. So often I've thought about if I had just magically suddenly I won the lotto or whatever, I suddenly had hundreds of millions of rand somewhere. Would I stop doing this? I don't think so. Would I stop doing a lot of the things that I love doing? I definitely don't think so. Would I stop doing interesting and amazing? I'd probably do more of them. And the only thing stopping you right now, and this is the point about that, is that you think money is the obstacle to you doing all the things that you want.
Yeah.
But that's like saying, I'll get fit next year, or
exactly.
I'll get into that relationship with that girl that I've been talking to I'll get into that next month. I don't need to do that.
Exactly.
I'm too busy now. And then you find excuses to not do what you really want to do. That's on you. And most of us in a modern society, we don't have like survival stuff, right? Like I'm talking about in the majority of the world's population now, you're not being immediately, put in danger. No one's trying to kill you right now. There are some places in the world where that's true, like where barbecue is, for example, in Haiti. But if you're living in South Africa in 2024, of course, money is a major problem for many of us. Our economy is difficult. Things cost a lot of money. But if that's going to be the reason that you don't do the things you need to do, how can you be sure that you'll even be here next year? How can you be sure that your health will hold up? How can you be sure that you will have the people that you care about in your life anymore? You've got to do those things today. And that's the lesson, I think, from that article. And I think that that's really valuable. The best things in life are free.
Yes. But it's nice to have a BMW. But it's nice to have this outfit. It's nice to go on. That's
it
the
makes
thing.
life a tad bit easier.
But don't let building the wealth for those kind of things be your limitations. It's almost like, when guys look at girls and go, oh, if I was just like had a 6-pack, or if I had more money, then I'll go talk to her. But like, no, go talk to her now.
Yes.
What's going to happen? You're going to learn that actually those things that you thought were so important to you, she might not actually care about as much. And it's the same thing when you try to live this life you do. Okay, cool. So you might not be able to rent a boat in Croatia this summer, but like do some stuff in Hearties, give it a roll, see where you go with it and start working into it.
Yes, do that.
Well,
and also
go and float on some hyacinth first up.
people think that money will make them into this adventurous person. No, it just brings out more of who you are. So if you've always been a homebody, guess what? You're still gonna stay at home with that $1 million.
Yeah.
If you've always wanted to be a groovist, you're gonna groove every day now because you have the funds to do it. And if you've wanted to travel, guess what? You're gonna do more of that because it brings out your personality.
Well,
those people on I Blew It.
Yeah, I like that.
Simphiwe, I'm going to give you credit because you do this stuff, and Ben, you do too. That's one of the reasons I love doing the show with you two. To bring it full circle. Oh, here's a big kumbaya moment. But the fact is,
nice.
both of you guys do this. Like I know Simphiwe does this because when I ask her, "What are you doing this weekend?" she's doing cool shit with her friends, and it's the little things like, "Oh no, this weekend." This is the game we're playing, or we're going to this place together, or we're going to sit and have conversations about this stuff. And those don't cost you money. And Ben, you get to explore parts. I said this in the first hour when before you'd arrived. You get to explore parts of this country that I feel embarrassed I haven't seen. And it doesn't always have to be like, oh, well, this is going to cost me thousands of rands to do. You're doing it anyway. And I think that's the lesson. So listen, I have to get going. I know you guys want to talk about AKA and the murder case because there are these 5 guys on the stand, and I'm not sure what the story is there.
I want to get some Simphiwe's thoughts on this because she's more level-headed than me.
I'm going to be listening. I have to head to the airport, but I also heard that I saw you tweeted something or X'd something this morning, Ben, about like Senzo Miua's trials, #1 again trending in South Africa it's been 10 years. It's like, really?
It's like the Zondo Commission of Murder Trials, just with less purpose.
Just quickly, let's get the results of that poll as well. So just to remind you guys before you finish up the show, because you're going to have to do the show, what the poll results are. So James, get us the results of that poll so that we can have a look at that. Have 172 votes so far, and people will have voted on whether or not they think it's a waste of time to go to Mars. I'm going to leave it to you, Simphiwe and Ben. I will see you guys. I'll be listening on my way. I got to go to the airport.
Gareth, happy times.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. And then there was 2.
So where's the poll? I thought that was a big build-up, and now we got no poll.
I guess James will have to walk in here.
Okay, I'm gonna open up with this. Okay, so the AKA murder accused. There's 5 guys on the dock. Okay, 5 guys.
Yes.
Am I the only one that picked up that it was very clearly a female, petite-ish kind of person who shot him? I mean, we saw those CCTV things, right? In every WhatsApp group in the country, we were all bombarded with it. It was on social media. Everybody saw that clip, whether you're into that kind of stuff or not. Everyone saw that murder. That was not a guy in the gun with the gun.
I will say this. So I had a conversation with someone who used to be AKA's part of AKA's bodyguard team, right? And he's basically shared that how in that world, they always kind of have to anticipate the worst and prep for the worst and prep for like who might have a hit on who and whatnot. And it's very real. And 9 out of 10 times, they usually know the person that put the hit out before the hit has even gone out.
Yeah.
And they prep for that. So they know who are the potential targets or potential people to put the target. And they're saying in this case, it's quite obvious from his perspective who might have put the target out there.
Right.
And it's such a black and white thing for him that he's like, I don't even follow the case until the right people have kind of been identified. I don't know if the right people have, but that's kind of how it works in the security world. On some, this is a very close cut. It's either 3 suspects or who would have put out the hit.
Yeah, so this is actually quite a big discussion. If this was a crime investigation podcast, I would be all into this. So, okay, they got 5 people who done this thing, okay? But now identities are revealed. These people are not guilty, they're not innocent, they're just there as suspects.
Yes.
I find straight away that's interesting because those people are now defined as the murder accused. That's because none of these people have amounted to anything else in life, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
But are they now bringing them in as a link to the people they really want to arrest? Because that's also that.
Yes. So ideally, they want to get the person who actually made that call to say he needs to be taken out. Ideally, right? But you first need to start the prawns before you get to the king or queen. And in this case, they have 5 suspects. I don't know if these people are the right ones. It's been very interesting as well. The guy that was there with them hasn't really said anything in terms of what he saw and what he experienced building up, which has also been, it's made this entire case very like, there's a bit of yeah, it's murky. There's something going on here, especially when he looked at how the night went and where he was standing. He was not supposed to kind of be standing like that and left open like that. So that also means that there was a lot of planning beforehand, even with the AKA team, to kind of be like, he needs to be here and kind of everybody else needs to be away. Yes.
Well, these things do take so much time. I mean, we're not going to touch on the Sentimenyiwe thing because I've also lost what's going on there. But what it always boils down to is that the cops have to be certain so as not to butcher these cases. So the Oscar trial, right? I don't know if the guy on duty that night was drunk, but he messed up a lot of evidence. And then when he got into the actual stand, he was a mess. So people keep saying, like, where's the justice? Why aren't there any suspects come forward? The cops and the police in general, I'm going to give them credit here. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But they have to formulate these cases so there's no holes. They need to be so certain so that by the time they actually put someone in there as an accused or a suspect, whatever,
Yes.
there's a huge trail behind that to be certain that that person can be linked in a certain way that they want to do. Because if it's not, then the case is on the back foot from the start and you're never going to get justice.
Yes. And as someone who watches a lot of crime dramas and
like any female over there for 20 years, carry on.
Yes, who could basically do this job in my sleep if you know I was getting paid. It does take long, but in the same breath, it shouldn't take this long. That's also part of the issue is that they lose evidence is very fickle, and being able to find the right evidence, you have a very short window of time to find it.
Sure.
It's been 10 years, and it's also been shown and proven that people's memory and recollection of things changes over time.
Yes.
So I could have been with Ben this morning and I'm like, I was with Ben and he was wearing a white top. And then 3 weeks later, I'm like, yeah, I was with Ben and I think he was wearing a whitish top. Can you see how it's changed in
exactly.
a very short period of time? And people only remember like very impactful moments or days. So if someone was like, what did you get up to yesterday? If there was nothing out of the ordinary, and now 10 years later, when they're like 3 days before the murder, what were you doing? And you're like, I really don't
Not credible
know.
witnesses. And these people do drugs and alcohol as well. So they're going to be addled to start with.
Yes. So now the first statement doesn't correlate with the second statement. And now you kind of are at square one, like 6 months later in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So they do have some time they do have some like leeway, but it's also like you need to get this like now, like within the next
year. You've got to strike while the gun is always hot.
Yes.
But just going back to the AKA thing, like where do you see justice being served? The person who pulled the trigger behind bars or the person who called the hit?
The hit.
Yeah, I would say so too. So the person who pulled the trigger, I mean, we know in this country, you can pay someone like, I don't know, a gift voucher for Chicken Inn will probably get you a murder in certain places.
Yes.
We know this because life is very cheap and crime is very widespread.
Mm-hmm.
So that person, cool, because then that person will have answers to who paid them, who e-walleted them for that night on Florida Road.
Yes. But we also want to know why was the hit put. You see, this is what makes it juicy. Like the guy who shot him, bam, bam. It's another killing.
I think it was a girl. Let's give credit here. Equal opportunity here.
Okay.
Inclusive society.
They, them who shot him. Who shot AKA. For them, it's just another oak. It's in Durban. Durban's notoriously known for having inkabi problems, or not problems, but they have a lot of hitmen in Durban. Like they're known for that. So it's like for him, it was just another day at work. It's the person that put the hit. Why? And I have my own reasons. I think it was the dad.
Well, everyone's got the theory that it was the dad of his late girlfriend, fiance. I think so as well. Well, that was always everyone's theory right from day one.
I think so. He has the money. He stays in Durban. He's been warned before, aka not to go to Durban. It just, you see, now I'm doing my 1+1 on social media. I think. Personally, allegedly. I don't want to get sued.
Well, always allegedly. I mean, we brought this up allegedly, but I mean, it's just interesting how this thing goes and like who becomes suspects and who's an identity. Like that's what I always feel. Like your identity becomes known, and then you're known as the suspect of the kill.
I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that.
Well, in this country, yeah, sure, people have way worse things hanging over them. Okay, I want to see what this poll is. James, can we sort this out?
Yeah, okay, cool. The polls resulted in the private chat. Oh, okay.
See, James always has a plan.
All right.
Is the expedition to Mars worth it?
51%.
Yes, 51. 42, leave me out of it. 5%, let's do Jupiter.
Okay. Why Jupiter?
See, I mean, I don't think people took this seriously. But hey, 51%, I'll limit defeat on that. I didn't say it wasn't worth it. I just said it's like, do people really care? See, now I've been misquoted. I've been misquoted and mispolled. I think we should wrap it up on that.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Oh, they said Zuma math. Yeah. I don't know how Zuma does his maths.
So people, I think we wrap it up from here. Have a fantastic Friday.
Oh, who ends the show? I don't know. Like, do you have access to end the show? James, are you ending the show? They have to kill the stream.
They have to kill the stream?
Yes.
Oh, God. This is so much admin. I was given pre-instructions
that would kill the stream. There, you have to do it. You have to kill the stream. That's how the show ends.
It's very murderous talk here, Simphiwe. I just think we should wrap this up. I mean, is anyone else going to die if we just walk out here?
Okay, in 3, 2, 1.